So right here we're at the etymology of the word African. Now we call ourselves African Americans or so-called black. But it states Old English Africanus, plural, native or inhabitant of Africa, from Latin Africanus, adjective of Africa, African, from Africa, see Africa. Used, I repeat, used of white residents of Africa from 1815. Used of black residents of the U.S. from the 18th century, when it especially meant one brought from Africa, and sometimes was contrasted to native-born Negro. So you had so-called white or Caucasian people who migrated or came to Africa. They used the word African. Now it would make sense, right? African Americans. Okay, but notice it's from the 18th century. That's when things started to change. Okay, especially in the school system, how it was indoctrinated to make you think one type of way or one train of thought. Remember, victors control history. Now we're at this book, The American Discovery of Europe by Jack D. Forbes, page 175, and it states, nonetheless, the number of non-whites, including Americans, seemed to have steadily increased. In 1621, 13 Negroes or Indian people, I repeat, in 1621, 13 Negroes or Indian people, 6 women, 7 males were sold. Okay, so they're trying to tell you that interchangeably these words are one and the same. Native Negroes, aka native Indians or Aborigines. So right here we're at the etymology of the word Indian, and it states inhabit of India or South Asia, pertaining to India, 13th century, now an adjective from late Latin Indias, from India, see India. Okay, applied to the aboriginal native inhabitants of the Americas from at least 1553 as a noun, 1610s as an adjective reflecting Spanish and Portuguese use on the mistaken notion that America was the eastern end of Asia. It was also used occasionally during the 18th century through the 19th century of inhabitants of the Philippines and indigenous peoples of Australia and New Zealand. Okay, so now we're at the word Negrito, a member of a diminutive Negroid race existing in the Malayo-Polynesian region, especially one of the Atas and the Philippine Islands. Now down here it states the Negritos were probably the Aborigines of the islands. Keyword Aborigines. So who are the Aborigines of the Americas? We have to take that in consideration. So right here we have the Aborigines or the Negritos or the inhabitants of the Philippine Islands. Now look at their phenotypes. Look at the woolly hair, the different texture, noses, lips, full lips, etc. Okay, but you know, in this article, it states that these are native Africans, the original inhabitants of the Philippine Islands. Okay, so some people believe in the out of Africa theory or whatnot. We'll be reading from the American Dictionary of the English Language, Noah Webster's 1828, to see what it states about the Aborigines or Aboriginal peoples. And it states Aboriginal. First, original, primitive Aboriginal people are the first inhabitants of a country, the Aboriginal tribes of America. Keyword, Aboriginal tribes of America. Aboriginal, an original or primitive inhabitant, the first settlers in a country are called Aboriginals, as the Celts in Europe and Indians in America. So right here we have the word indigo. Sounds a lot like Indian, right? 17th century spelling change of indigo, 1550s, blue powder obtained from certain plants and used as a dye from Spanish indico, Portuguese indigo, and Dutch via Portuguese indigo, all from Latin indicum, indigo from Greek indicon, blue dye from India, literally Indian. I repeat, literally Indian. Okay, no difference than the blue man, aka the Negro, aka the Indian, right? And it states indigo, blue, violet, violet blue color of the spectrum. And of course, I read this many times on my platform or page. It states Negro, older English words were more and blackamoor. A Middle English word for Ethiopian, perhaps also a Negro, generally was blue man, blue man. Okay? So they're trying to let you know subconsciously in that blue skin equals melanated or copper or bronze, color skin. Okay? There's nothing new under the sun. You all remember the movie Avatar, right? Those were indigenous or aborigine peoples. And who do you see playing basketball or football the most, especially here in the Americas? Now, I'm not a Afrocentric. I'm not a Pan-Africanism. I'm not a pro-Black. My page is more based on pro-truth, pro-knowledge. Okay, the truth is in the gray area. I don't believe that my color defines me as being good or evil. It depends on the person's heart and their character, okay? So we have to get this notion that black equals righteousness, because it don't. There's a lot of our people that are wicked as hell, and they tear down the community. They don't lift our people up. Those are the demons or devils, okay? And so forth. But we have to get rid of this notion that we are black, because black is a liberal Marxist term, okay? Especially when you look up in the dictionary what its real true meaning is, okay? If I take a shit and wrap it up in the present, you're going to believe that this is something nice. But when you open it up, it's still shit, right? It's the same thing with this color or crayon. I have copper or bronze color skin. Didn't they say Christ had feet of burnt brass, right? So we have to take that in the notion that, this color does not reflect what we actually look like, from varied shades of brown, swarthy, or tawny. So right here we have an illustration. No such thing as black man or woman. They are all brown skin. Have you ever seen a real black person, so-called black person? Only shades of brown skins. Now here's an example. Black, midnight, grease, sable, obsidian, ebony, ink, onyx, jet black, jade, crow, raven, pitch, coal, spider, charcoal, oil, soot, metal, and leather. So right here we have an example of the shades of brown: beige, bronze, chestnut, chocolate, coffee, copper, khaki, you're pronouncing it right, mahogany, russet, septa, senina, tan, taupe, umber, and wheat. And down here we have the different shades of brown: sand, 2, 3, and so forth. But you get the illustration, right? None of these people on this chart are quote unquote black, literally. So right here we're at Revelations chapter 1, verse 15. And I believe most religious or people who read the scripture know about this verse. And his feet, key words, feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Now they're using metaphorically the word fine brass, or they're using an analogy to fine brass, right? So analogy, what do we mean by analogy? A comparison between things that have similar features, often used to help explain a principle or idea. So right here we have another example. Was Jesus or Yahweh's skin like bronze, hair like wool? For many scholars, Revelations chapter 1, 14 through 15 offers a clue that Jesus' skin was a darker hue and that his hair was woolly in texture. The hairs of his head, it says, were white as white wool, white as snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze. There's that word again, burnished bronze, refined as in a furnace. So now we're back at this chart, and it states shades of brown. As we can see, bronze. Now the word bronze and brass, they're used interchangeably in the scriptures, right? So Christ or Yahweh would have looked like these 6 on the bottom row, right? Now here's an example of many translations. As we can see, International Version uses feet were like bronze. New Living uses polished bronze. English Standard uses burnished bronze. The Berean Bible uses polished bronze, etc. Okay. Now it states, why would the United Nations recognize native Moors? We know what Moor means, right? That's the oldest indigenous tribe on earth. I'll end this video on this note or this quote. It is 1,000 times better to have common sense without education than to have education without common sense.